to go.
Great, thank you so much. So hi, everyone. My name is Amy Kuntz. I am the Learning Innovation Strategic Initiatives Coordinator as part of Penn State's Teaching and Learning with Technology. And today I'm going to be talking about using 360 imagery assignments to engage students. When choosing the session, it was beyond lurk that we're going to be doing some interactivity, and that includes getting a little bit hands-on with one of the tools called 360 tools, and as well as brainstorming as part of a debrief. And knowing that I am between what is most likely lunch for some of you, we'll make sure that we end on time. And so by the end of today, we really want you to define what immersive tools are in terms. You might be an expert and know some of this already, so feel free to chime in. We'll discuss use cases from faculty for student-based 360 imagery assignments in various contexts and disciplines. Then we'll also get hands-on and create a 360 imagery tour. Please don't be afraid. It's actually a lot easy using the tool that I'm going to demo, and then have you do it as well. And then at the end, we'll discuss affordances and constraints of 360 imagery. It could both be verbal because we have a smaller group here at the moment, or we can utilize it through a tool called Padlet. All the resources will be available after the session. I have a link that takes you to this space, and I will be posting in Discord in case you forget it later on. So what do we mean by immersive, including 360 images? So immersive technologies includes 360 images and video, virtual reality, and augmented reality. And it makes us possible to experience things and teach in these new and exciting ways. I know there's lots of VR sessions in the past 2 years for this conference. There has been as well. And so for 360 images, you can do virtual field trips to all corners of the globe, get firsthand views of history, and close interactions with microscopic things. And so they impart lasting impressions of our students. So 360 images is highlighted in the bottom right, but just to give you some context, and if you get these a little bit confused, augmented reality places a fake duck in the real world. One example is called Pokemon Go. Another one is IKEA, the furniture store. If you want an IKEA piece of furniture, but you don't know what it would look like, you could actually place it in the corner where you think it's going to be and what it would look like if you actually purchased it and put it together. Virtual reality is although it looks realistic, is a fake duck in a fake computer generated environment. Mixed reality takes that augmented concept and places it behind real furniture, including the table. And what we're focusing on today is 360 images. So real world, it's true 100%. So while this may look fake, this is actually a big inflatable duck that was on a river in Pittsburgh. And so you can see that, and it's true that it's there and real. So with 360 images and these other options, you could have it be on a browser, which we're doing today, especially for online asynchronous courses. You could also do it on a smartphone, where you could kind of just pan around with your phone. You could also do it in what's called a cardboard headset, but they call it like cheap viewers like this that are less than $15, where you place your phone in it. So you could look around and it makes you feel like you're really there. And then you could also use it in a VR standalone headset. Those are a little bit pricier. Oh, thank you. Yes, feel free to use it, the analogy. So what are some use cases of 360 images in higher education? Our first foresight into this is a sunsetted product already. It was Google. So Google had what was called Google Tour Creator, and you could use any Google photo that was on Street View when you're doing maps, or if people uploaded a 360 photo, just tourists, you could utilize that. And so they had some from NASA And we said, hey, this is an astronomy course. Let's get students into this. So they used the viewers like we had. And while it's sunsetted, I just want to show you a quick snippet. So this is Dan Jackson. He utilized the experience, and he could put a focal point and it would put an arrow so students would know to look there. And what's pictured here is little smiley faces. So each smiley face represents a student and what they were looking at. So you could see if a student was really far off. So while this is sunsetted, aspects of this still exist. They moved them over to what is called Google Voyager. That's part of Google Earth. And so you could actually experience this yourself by going here. And so for the International Space Station, we are up above the world, and it's kind of like a slide deck. So this has about 18 slides, and you click on one, but unlike a typical slide, you have the front and back arrows to navigate to the previous slide, the next slide. It's not a slide. It is a 360-degree image. And so we could kind of hold our mouse and pan around. And then this gives context of like, what are we looking at? And so unlike traditional slides, we could say, hey, before we go to the next one, I want to see what's down here. And you could use these arrows to move around. And then at some points when there's 4 choices, you could say, I'm going to go this way and check things out. But if students get off track and say, hey, let's go to the next one, you can go ahead and move to the next slide. So this is the observational module. And so we could see the Earth down here, and we could kind of pan around and look at it. So from this, it's really neat to get perspective of how small some of these spaces are. In case you're thinking about becoming an astronaut, maybe you'll get a little bit claustrophobic and say, oh, maybe not for me. But again, each of these has that ability. And so I'm going to switch gears after this and just move ahead. So we're not going to explore, we're just going to go to the different slides. And you can see for here, most of them are pretty much all that 360 image. And so you could see from the table of contents of what it looks like. So one other example that I want to showcase is the Taj Mahal. And then I'll go over how to look at these before going over other examples and then how to create on our own. So the Taj Mahal does some from the 360 photo, but it also does what's kind of like top down, like this is the Taj Mahal and what does the landscape look around it. So you could kind of drag and pan around. And this one has 11 slides. So it takes us kind of the other direction of focusing on the west wall of the Taj Mahal. When we think of the Taj Mahal, we think about probably this, but not the west wall. And then it goes over even to the east building. Now, while this is doing it from the top perspective, we said about 360 images. So if you do this with your students, kind of demoing it first, you could actually click and hold this little person and place them anywhere in Google Street View. So anything with a line was probably done by Google. So beyond streets, like over here, they typically walk around pathways of major historical sites. In addition, people who put their own 360 photos as a tourist are here, and they are little circles, which are called photospheres. And so if we say, hey, let's check it out, like right here, it floats you in. And then I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And so we could see how we are close up. And I think I got the actual pathway versus someone else's. So on this level, if it's done by Google, we could like teleport by going a little bit by little bit at a time. But if you say, hey, I want to go back to where it is, just like a slide deck, you could say go backwards and it takes us to where we were. And you could try again as far as circles are concerned. So if we want to say, let's go like right here in the middle. If anyone remembers the presentation tool Prezi that zoomed in and out, sometimes with this, if you do a lot of zooming back and forth, it could get possibly disoriented for people who have motion sickness. So just kind of be cautious a little bit for that. So for privacy, oftentimes Google tries to, if it's their pictures, blur them out. If it's someone as a tourist, they tend not to. But for 360 cameras, where it combines the front camera and back, sometimes it doesn't line things up. So you get stuff like this where you have part of a person. So it's not always perfect, but it breaks the sense of realism. But if you look this way, it totally gets you back into it. So that is Google Voyager. And if you're saying, hey, I want to check this out and look at what is available, if you click the little Voyager icon, they have a whole bunch of different collections that are there. And so you can do this and see about bald eagles, landforms from space, sea rising, and much, much more. So this tends to have a focus of geography as well as nature. It's an education, they bring a lot of math and realism and like real world and from the culture perspective. So those are those main categories, and you can kind of scroll through. Again, if you have any questions throughout, please don't wait to the end. You could totally ask them at any point in time. And so now I have a question for you. Where would you take your students virtually in these spaces, and what aspects would you focus on? I know we might have the pre-lunch lull. So I'll give it about a few more seconds and we'll go ahead and move on. That's okay.
For the participants, you should be able to come off mute if you want to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah, if you wanted to contribute verbally, go ahead. Well, let's go over some other use cases, because maybe that could give you some examples. So this is Kate Morgan. She teaches art at Penn State Lehigh Valley, and she wanted her students to get, instead of just talking about historical structures and the artistic value, she wanted to prepare them for a digital world without having much of a learning curve. So digital fluency is a challenge in higher education. I know in addition to teaching computer science, I teach a computer information systems class of Microsoft Word, Excel, and a lot of students don't know those skill sets because they might have had Google Slides and Google Docs and their K-12 experience. And so she really wanted to push the envelope of getting them comfortable with the technology and being creators in this space. So she first used a tool of Google Tour, which has now sunsetted, and then now is using the one that we're going to be talking about later on called 360 Schools. And so for her particular arts assignment, she had them take a 360, use an existing 360 image, do research, and add these points of interest. And then for the presentation, which we'll talk about more in more detail, instead of doing a PowerPoint presentation where they got up and presented 5 minutes in front of the class, she had everyone experience it in the VR mobile headsets that are pictured here. And so she really wanted to have them develop those digital skills, get comfortable with digital creation. She wanted them to understand copyright. A lot of these students were freshmen. A lot of them were first generation as well. And of course, assess their learning. And so for her assignment, she had them research a historical structure, write a 2-page paper using APA style, working with the library. And then from that, take the most important aspects of the paper to narrow down the information to create a 360 imagery tour. And then from there, she had them present that tour in front of the class instead of a PowerPoint. So it was researching, writing, then creating, to then presenting. And so some of the assignment feedback from Kate Morgan is that presentations were a huge success in class. So oftentimes she struggled to get students to meet that 5-minute minimum. She said, hey, if you want to meet 5 minutes, you have to meet 5 minutes. If you want to go over, great. A lot of them went 8 to 15 minutes. And so if you say, hey, you have to do like triple the minimum requirement of a presentation, a lot of students would say, no, thank you. And so instead of dreading the presentation, they really loved it. The information flowed. They were interested in each other's presentations. They asked a lot of questions. And they even went home and shared it with their families. And so if we think about it, oftentimes who really shares a college paper or presentation with their families, especially if they don't live with them, not too many. So it was really cool to get that feedback without even asking for it. It's like, hey, I told this to my parents and this is what they said. And so the interim part that we used was called ThingLink. We're not going to go into too much detail because we didn't want to recreate the student assignments. And so the students are right now creating the tours. They didn't get them done. They have about a week left. But so far it's been pretty seamless in the new tool. So first was Google Tours, that went away. Then the past few years, it's been ThingLink. ThingLink has now gone to a paid model. So we did it in the fall, but now we're moving to another free product called 360 Tours. And so trying to be nimble, most of these are very similar, but different. And so the nice thing about ThingLink, which is also the case of the one that we're doing, is they have a library of images to find. And so that is pictured here. And if in case you do want to check out ThingLink, I'll put them here. And so now that we've had that, I think we've had some, oh yes, I adore ThingLink. We've had some other examples in chat. So I'm going to mention those. So as a former teacher ed professor, I would help my aspiring teachers to explore these tools by providing an engaging experience for the students they work with. Great. An indoor plan of our assistive tech lab. Yeah, so doing a virtual tour of campus is a fantastic one of how to do that and to navigate those spaces. I know that we have, even for thinking about learning spaces and getting faculty used to teaching with what does the smart board and our active learning classrooms of moving furniture around, is we actually have 360 imagery tours of the active learning classroom. So our faculty could get used to the classroom before they even come, especially for new hire faculty. Great. And so, yes, so, and yes, Geniality is another one and does a lot more. So we went with 360, gave different options. And so thank you so much for that one as well. And so we kind of got at this one. Are you more interested in creating 360 imagery tours for students to view, or would you be more interested in having students create them? We kind of got a mixed result. Does anybody else have thoughts?
I'm thinking you might want to give students an like say you were doing a culture and geography lesson or something, or you wanted to contextualize a location, you could do an overview for the class and then have the students dig down into specific areas, you know, so that they could blow it up. You give them the overview with a larger scene, and then say, what, you know, go to separate areas and see what you find, kind of thing.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, our next example is actually available on a website where we have the rubrics and much more. So this is Dr. Margaret Hoffman, who does landscape contracting at University Park in central Pennsylvania. And so she said a lot of our students kind of stick around the area. They know what they know from growing up. How do we expand their ideas and perspectives? So we'll go over these images a little bit in more detail later on, but what's pictured on the left is kind of our hands-on, getting used to it, students creating it. We have a picture of the guide that was given towards students, and then on the right is them experiencing it within virtual reality headsets called the MetaQuest. And so to help prepare students, they first experienced ThingLink tours that were created by the faculty member. So they have an arboretum on campus that does some really great landscaping ideas. And so they had to go through that and just view it themselves. So the next part of the guide, they then had to take 360 photos that were done and use it in groups to create tours of other landscape places on campus. And so from here, some of the examples include, this is the ones created by the faculty member, is the garden, the 5 senses that were done of seeing, smelling, that kind. And then we had a landing page for all the tours, so students could easily navigate from one to another. Again, these were faculty created. And so the second part was the how-to of doing ThingLink. Well, for us in this session, we'll do a quick how-to of 360 tours in a little bit. And this is them getting hands-on and working in those small groups. And so we're going to go over some of the student examples that were created. This is the Foundry Garden. And if you want to see these examples, if you go to Pillar, if you go to Teach, it has the guide, it has the handouts, it has the rubrics for the assignment, and then it also has all of the student work, some examples that we have permission to share. And so this is Foundry Park. And so students can add information. So some of them added close-up pictures that they did. Some of them added audio. Some of them, it's just a quick little explanation of what kind of trees are these, and getting that whole perspective. So they had to do 2 different pictures that linked together, and they had to have at least 3 little pop-up items. And so this takes us to the second photo, which is, what is the focal point of the scene? So if you get it wrong, you get another try, and then it takes you to the other scene. And so we're in a different area, and then it has those points of interest. The other student example that I want to show you, this is called the Peace Garden. And so there are some boxwood hedges create this more of a space between here and the walkway. This is an audio example, so I'm going to be quiet.
A fine texture is created throughout the landscape via the naturally cut flagstone, turf, and native pachysandra. Additionally, the hardscape is not set in rigid lines, but instead is offset to help blend and unify the transition between plant and hardscape material. The pachysandra.
I'm going to stop and not play the whole thing. And then this one again kind of teleports us to the middle area. And then from here, they went above and beyond and did a third picture. And so here they have some little pop-ups too. So again, if you want to learn more about maybe creating assignment somewhat like this, how to use, it has, again, this is geared towards ThingLink, and which is a low cost product, but we're going to be doing the free one in a little bit. And so the next part was, hey, you did this in pairs or small groups. Now it's time for you to do it alone, just to make sure everyone can do all aspects of it. And so there was a second guide for the creation. The student had to work with a client who had a house who wanted to redo their landscaping, including a possible, like adding a fireplace outside and things of that nature. And so we had all the information within Canvas for everyone to view. And this is the remodeled landscape that they have. So the picture, here we go, is the first one as all of the students. And so here they said, hey, well, what will this look like? So a remodeled front entrance.
For your front entrance, you now have a larger and safer walkway with steps and a railing, retaining wall with a raised planting bed.
And so they have it numbered what way to do this. And so they have pictures that they created in the separate product that mimics, kind of pitches the idea of the landscape. And they have that here. And then if you go to the backyard, this individual also then has some more pictures of a deck, a seated viewpoint. And then one of the requirements in the rubric is taking advantage of the 360. So while they did a lot of ideas over here, number 6 is over here of the backyard patio. And so college students being college students, when they took the photo, the one guy, of course, had to do a pose. So we got that. So again, all these examples are on there. And two, just to show you within the ease of use of ThingLink really quickly, is after you upload a photo, this is a demo because it does have a cost. If you click edit, you look in the direction that you want to add the photo. So you could even look up if you want and say, oh, I totally want the icon to be here. You click add tag. It does a number, but you could change it and say, hey, I want just the text. I want to add a website. I want to add media, including recording video, adding a picture, etc. You could then change the icon to a variety of items. So I'm just going to say example. And then this is an example definition. And then you just click done. And then that's it. And you have it like that. And now it's up here up top. So again, we're going to focus on another tool because I'm all about 100% being free. And so before we doing so, as far as students were concerned, we did a little bit of scholarship of teaching and learning research that was IRB approved. The client, to showcase the result to the client, they use the VR headset. So this is the client's son, and they wanted to experience it in VR as well. And so the students who created it think it's a great way to show clients what you're thinking about in terms of a design pitch. And they believe it's only a matter of time before this plays a big role in the industry. I know I need landscaping help, but that would be great to see ahead of time before spending a lot of money in a big investment. And an additional student, it's not always 100% positive. This is a really important element that I really enjoy using the 360 technology. I do see it as an option for communicating with clients, but I feel like most older clients would not be too excited about the technology. And so for that, I think that was crucial. So a great question. Do you have 360 cameras available for faculty students to check out to capture images? Yes, we do. So Penn State has 24 campuses that are geographically dispersed throughout the state of Pennsylvania. It takes about 6 hours to get from the border of Eastern PA aligned with New Jersey to Ohio. It's easier to go north and south, but every campus location now has at least one camera that could be rented out for a period of time. So there are times that there's extra ones that can be loaned out, particularly during like spring break when there might be more study abroad trips, things of that nature. And then the other part that we have is trying to be equitable, knowing that these headsets do cost sometimes. Some departments purchase maybe one or two. The other example that I have going back is those viewers there. I don't have it in here. There are some rooms that have one VR where you go and like check it out and do it as an individual. But we have this new pilot that's been going on for a few semesters now of like a kit of 25 of these that get brought, that get shipped and then can be used within the classroom. And so that way, even smaller campuses that may only have 800 students don't have to spend the money, knowing that it's a financial barrier, that they could borrow it maybe for 2 weeks in a particular course. And then it's called interlibrary loan that we have that has free shipping between the library locations. And so now this is going to be the hands-on portion, as moving forward, knowing that ThingLink does have a cost. In some instances, the faculty, just as Landscape, is going to keep ThingLink because they have it through their department budget. But the other earlier examples have been moving towards this element called 360 schools. And so I'm going to do a quick little demo before having you experience it and do it on your own. And so if you go to this website, 360 Tours, you could sign up for a free education account. And I'm going to my guided tours that I already have. So you could create a new guided tour, which is creating a new file. And I'm going to say Coliseum. I can never spell it right. Coliseum and tour of the Coliseum. And then you could select a panorama for the introduction. So this, just like ThingLink, has a collection of images that are out there. If you have your own, you can also upload it if you want. And so we are going to do this one and just select it. So now we're ready to save. And this is as easy as adding a new slide to a slide deck. So you click add new slide, saying I want a panorama. And so if you have your own, you would upload it by clicking this button and attaching it like you would to an email. But if you want to search, you would just use that key term and search. Now, if you're saying, I want something that's in the inside of the Coliseum, but I don't know which one, you could click preview. And then you could preview it. This one has a little bit less people. It's a rainy day. So I think let's go with this one. So then you click select. And just like ThingLink, where you could add a tag, this is similar. So you pan around to what you want to focus on and click add a tag. And you say, I want it exactly right there. You have the choice of adding text, a 2D image, a video, or a Google form. So this is an example tag. And then it does bold, italicize, underline. You could link out to another website and press done. The one thing that this does is it starts like rotating around. And so you have to make sure like, okay, let's add another tag and I want to be this way. And so if we want an image, if we get this one and download it, when you upload it, you can click upload image. Oh, whoops, maximize file size. That was a little bit bigger, but then it would pop up here and you could give it a caption. So we'll just, for time's sake, delete this one and we'll have it be that element. Then if you wanted to add audio narration while this is playing, you can add narration here and press record. This is an example of the tour that's inside the Coliseum. As you can see here, there are 2 points of interest in addition to this narration recording. It then allows you to practice it and replay it. This is an example, and I'm going to press save. So then, now that we have the first slide done, you click save, and you could repeat the process and add as many slides as you want. And then once it's saved, what it looks like from the viewing standpoint is this. And it gives students directions. So it has the tags, and then it has the audio. This is an example of the tour that's inside the Coliseum. As you can see here, there are 2 points of interest in addition to this narration recording. And then if you do have it in a viewer, you could press this to view it in a VR type device like this. So as you can see, it's pretty simple to do. And so in the next kind of 5 minutes that we'll have is we'll allow you to take some time to go here and create an account and create a tour yourself. Add a title, add 1 slide, and add 2 points of interest to it. So these are the directions. And if you have questions, I'll be here to help. So I always make sure that I set a timer for the actual 5-minute mark.
Amy, this is Greg, your facilitator. I just wanted to alert everybody in the chat. I put a link for the presentation evaluation. So if you guys have time before the presentation ends, or just access that link at your convenience, maybe during lunch. And we'd really appreciate the feedback. I'm sure Amy would as well.
Yeah, and knowing that I do stand between lunch, I will post the kind of debrief Padlet that we're going to do and the resource link to the slides.
Thanks, Amy.
So we do have one question. How do students submit the 360 assignment? So they would use the URL link, and then we have Canvas as our learning management system. And so in addition to sending the link, Canvas sometimes takes a picture so that way they can't like edit it after the due date. And so we use that. Some faculty members are extra cautious. So they have the student submit the URL as well as like 2 screenshots of their tour, and they attach the 2 images as well, just so that they stick to the due date and not edit their work after they post the URL.
Amy, this is Greg again. I'm just curious, as the participants are working right now, are there any accessibility issues with these products? And if so, how did you guys address that? Or yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, so Penn State has a rigorous process. So any tool that is free for use, or we have to pay for it, has to go through what is called courseware. It goes through a lot of checks, including like student information, has to reside in the United States, privacy issues, things of that nature. But it also does that accessibility piece. So it's an intensive. And so for some of these, there could, in the broadest sense, not just 360s, it could be someone with visual impairments or hearing impairments. So what we do is, if there's a hearing accommodation, if a student creates an audio narration, they then have to also provide that transcript and attach that to the slide as well. So that's a little bit easier. When it comes to images, providing the alt text is important. When it comes to using what's already out there, that's a little bit harder. So the unfortunate workaround is that the student would work in pairs. So if it was an individual assignment, the faculty member might quickly pivot it to being in pairs. And so then that pair can contribute in other methods. So the one person who doesn't have the accommodation might do the imagery tour, versus the one who might need the accommodations would do a little bit more for the 2-page research paper or parsing down the information. And so what I could do, since that was of interest, I didn't create a resource file, but I could add like a last slide where we have some of the language that we use for what the accommodation would be if it comes in.
Great. We got about 5 minutes left, Amy.
Yes, we have 5 more seconds to 5 minutes for the how-tos. Perfect. So hopefully that gave you some time to explore and to do this assignment. Again, all the resources or the slides are in that last URL. So to wrap things up in the last 5 minutes, in addition to any questions you may have that you could unmute and talk or type in the chat, is kind of a brainstorming debrief. So some of the affordances and constraints of the 360 imagery tours. And so if we go to the Padlet, I wanted to make sure that I didn't put any thoughts, but I think the constraints, like you said, is accessibility, since that one was mentioned. Something like that. So if you can, add a few affordances and constraints or any additional thoughts. Yeah, same thing. I wish the image wouldn't spin around, it would just stay static. The other one is, this was mentioned by a different participant, and I'll put this in the guide, is there's always tools that are in this space that are free and then maybe move to paid, but then new up and coming tools. So another one that is out there, I want to give credit for where it was due. Kelly Lane had Genially. And so that could be a constraint is it going to be moved to a paid product, or is it always going to be free and needing to pivot? Are there any other, we'll of course leave the Padlet open, but is there any questions or comments? So the great question. So that tool is a little bit more like ThingLink. The nice thing about 360 images, it's kind of that slide. So for the art course, which was a first semester, and they're teaching it currently, they thought that their perspective was it was a little bit less of a learning curve for students, especially using images that were in the platform itself. So in case two people have to leave, I'll put my information here. And again, I'll post the resources in the Discord probably this evening. I have some other items this afternoon. And so thank you all very much. And I'll continue to answer questions. So one of them is, what strategies have you used to support faculty in learning how to use these tools for teaching and learning? So as far as doing that, I think I first ask them, it's not about the technology, it's about what they're trying to accomplish. And so what are they doing? What ideas do they have for the assignment? Because again, there's so many tools out there, we kind of create a custom SWOT analysis, like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the various tools and which one might be better for them. And then they're the content experts and they know pedagogy. And so partnering with them, that I know pedagogy from a technology standpoint, and let's see about how to best work together to co-create some of the how-to guides for students. Any tool that's free is not supported by our central help desk. So then saying, hey, pointing to the help desk of the tool itself, but also having thorough directions for students. And then also from the pedagogically standpoint of making sure the assignment assesses the objectives of the course, that we really think about the rubric, both from the content standpoint and why are we using this tool? And so that's why within the rubric that's on that one pillar website, it talks about taking advantage of the 360 perspective, that you have a point of interest and the forward 180 and the backward 180. So some of the students might not have done a point of interest back there, but it kind of forced them to take advantage of that 360 perspective. Great. Well, again, if you have other questions, feel free to reach out. I know that we want to stick to the time ending in about 1 more minute. So thanks so much, all.
Amy, thank you very much for, first of all, participating in our conference, but thank you also for your presentation today. Much appreciated. And thanks to the participants. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference today. Enjoy maybe a little break and some lunch. And we'll see you somewhere along the path. So thank you again, Amy.
Thank you.